Imagine for a moment that within you lives a quiet power, an energy resting just beneath the surface. It doesn't come from luck or miracles. It comes from within. This power isn't some abstract idea. It's something you can feel when you stop running and start listening. It can transform what you thought was fixed. Your relationships, your sense of purpose, that dull feeling when the alarm rings and another identical day begins. But this change doesn't start outside of you. It starts deep inside, in the hidden space of your unconscious. Carl Gustav Jung, often reduced to a name in a psychology textbook, was one of the few who dared to look where most people turn away. He explored that invisible territory where our wounds, fears, and desires hide. He understood that we are far greater than what we believe ourselves to be. Every emotion that arises without reason, every sudden sense of disconnection, every nameless sadness, none of it is random. They are messages. Your unconscious is speaking to you, always. And when you ignore that voice, you slowly drift away from who you truly are. That's how you end up accepting a job that drains you, a relationship that shrinks you, a life that feels safe but lifeless. You move forward out of habit, no longer out of passion. So breathe deeply for a moment and ask yourself, are you truly living your life, or just surviving a version that others wrote for you? Maybe you see yourself in that woman who stays silent to avoid conflict, or in that man who traded his passion for a stable career. These are not stories of weakness. They are stories of disconnection. Because when we lose touch with our essence, life fades to grey. To value yourself is not to chant affirmations in front of a mirror, hoping the universe will listen. It is to live as someone who already knows their worth. It is daring to say no when everything in you screams yes, out of fear of losing something. It is refusing crumbs, even if the world insists that's all you deserve. And no, that's not ego, that's courage. Jung spoke of the shadow, that part of ourselves we hide, our anger, jealousy, frustration. We think we must get rid of it, but it is in fact our most honest mirror. It points, often painfully, to the places still in need of healing. Think of the woman who prided herself on never crying, who only realized one day that her rage was just grief she had never allowed herself to feel. When she finally stopped fighting herself, something softened. Her relationships became lighter, truer. Because to value yourself is to sit with your shadows, to look them in the eye and say, I see you. It means no longer running from what is uncomfortable. And when you finally accept every part of who you are, you stop settling for half measures, in love, in life, in yourself. There are people like Juan too, who spent years surrounded by those who belittled him, not because they had power over him, but because deep down he saw himself the same way. The day he looked at himself with honesty and compassion, those people began to disappear. The world reflects the value you believe you have. When you change the way you see yourself, everything around you changes. Now take a breath. Close your eyes if you wish. Ask yourself, what in my life drains my energy? A habit, a relationship, a belief about who I should be? You don't have to fix it right now. Just naming it is already transformation, because awareness is always the first step toward awakening. Jung also said that what you deny controls you, but what you accept transforms you. As long as you refuse to look at your truth, you remain enslaved by what you pretend not to see. But the moment you recognize it, you reclaim your freedom. Transformation begins in that moment of clarity, when you admit that you want more peace, more meaning, more truth. It's not about having more, it's about being more. And once you realign with yourself, something magical happens. Coincidences start to unfold. The right people appear. Opportunities show up without struggle. Jung called this synchronicity. It's not luck, it's resonance. When you return to yourself, life stops resisting and starts responding. Take Maria, for example. At 50, she found an old notebook, and remembered her childhood dream, to write. She didn't expect anything from it. She just started. Months later, she accidentally met an editor at a cafe. Was it coincidence? Number. It was her path aligning with her truth again. Change doesn't require perfection. It requires presence, the courage to stay with what hurts until it reveals what heals. The world eventually mirrors the value you give yourself. Before you go to sleep tonight, try this simple act. Write down 3 things that weigh on you. Next to each one, imagine your life without it. You don't need to act right away, just feel it. Because what you can clearly imagine, you begin to create. How many times have you felt like you were living someone else's life? How many mornings have you woken up already tired before the day even began? That feeling isn't weakness. It's a call from within. We've all been taught to wear masks. Be strong, be nice, be useful, don't cry. Be grateful for the little you have. Don't take up too much space. And little by little, we forget who we are. Living behind a mask may keep you accepted, but it steals your light. We call it burnout, disillusionment, emptiness. But really, it's just the voice of your authenticity begging to be heard. To be authentic is to dare to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. It's saying yes when your heart dances, and no when it tightens. It's embracing both your light and your shadow, without shame or fear. Because you don't have to be perfect to be whole, only honest. When you live that way, you stop needing approval. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, even when the path is still dark. And then life begins to meet you halfway. You attract deeper connections, truer relationships. You no longer have to perform to be loved. You simply are, and that is enough. Each of us carries a calling, a purpose that whispers beneath the noise. When you move closer to that voice, even the hard moments begin to make sense. Sometimes it starts with something small, doing again what once made you feel alive. Rodrigo, for instance, always loved cooking, but chose a serious career instead. Years later, exhausted and unfulfilled, he began cooking again on Sundays for friends. That simple act reignited him. Now he runs a small restaurant he calls his sacred space. He's not rich, but he's alive. And that is wealth. True prosperity begins there, not in your bank account, but in the emotional balance of your soul. Everything you wish to build outside starts inside. So keep walking, step by step. Don't go back just because the old ways feel familiar. Every conscious step creates a new reality. Change doesn't always mean quitting everything. Sometimes it just means seeing with new eyes. Stop punishing yourself for what you didn't know before. Today, you know. Today, you can choose. Choose to listen to yourself, to respect yourself, to remember that you deserve a life that feels like you. You were not born to survive in fear. You were born to bloom in truth. And blooming is not a sudden explosion. It's a process, slow, fragile, sacred. Every time you honor yourself, you tell life, I'm ready. And life listens. Not always as you expect, but always as you need. Your unconscious speaks through signs, intuitions, dreams, the emotions that keep returning. Listen to them. They are your compass, leading you home. In that center, you'll find the peace you've been chasing in others, in success, in appearances. Because real abundance doesn't start with what you earn, it starts with what you feel. When you live in harmony with yourself, nothing needs to be forced. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You become what you wish to experience. And life, like a faithful mirror, begins to reflect this new version of you, whole, calm, and free. So keep going. Keep diving, observing, releasing, embracing. With every step, you move closer to a life where love doesn't hurt, it strengthens. Where work doesn't drain, it fulfills. Where days don't weigh heavy, they inspire. A life that carries your face, your rhythm, your soul. a life that is truly yours.